When a spectator experiences a magic trick, they are witnessing hours, days, years of practice and dedication to the art of magic. Today on Magicians Talking Magic, Ryan and I are going to share how we practice and rehearse our magic.
Welcome to Magicians Talking Magic. My name is Ryan Joyce.
And my name is Graemazing. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Magicians Talking Magic. And Joyce, it's so good to see you again.
It's been forever. Wow, we're on a bit of a leave the last couple of weeks. Life is insane on this end. You, however, have gotten a little sneak of recovery time. So we're so glad you listening are here with us. It's been a little bit of a break. I hope you enjoyed our last two reposts of some incredible interviews that we had here on MTM.
And we noticed from the numbers that you all continued to listen along, and we triple snaps to our listeners at MTM. You guys are so great. Everyone here is so fantastic.
I love how we've shortened it to MTM, and that's really more your influence here.
I feel like
MTM.
It's the evolution, right? It's evolved. We've done it so much now. I think it merits that we can call it MTM. I mean, it's on all the files in the background anyhow. It just makes it easier. But I hope maybe the Discorders and the listeners too start calling it MTM too. MTM Wednesdays, you know?
There it is. And speaking of this episode release date, it comes out one day before your birthday.
Boom.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man.
Whoa, triple snaps for you on this special day. Man,
so
any special plans?
I have, you know what? I've been debating about this, and I'm not sure. I might make the trek to Browser's Den of Magic.
Oh, how fun.
Might do the little road trip, because I haven't done that. That used to be the annual kind of birthday tradition with my parents. We'd drive to Toronto, do the Browser's Den of Magic road trip. And to be honest, like, I don't get the opportunity to get out there that often. I always have to order it. And the best part about a brick and mortar is the experience. And we were actually talking before we recorded that we're so unsure about events in the state of the world. Like, are we going to have a fall and a winter? What's going to happen here? Everything is nerve-wracking yet again. So I feel like maybe I should get out there and experience the Magic Store experience, just in case you can't in the fall or something like that. So I might plan to do that later in the back half of this week.
I think that's a great idea. And if this wasn't like the deadline week of my 4 weeks of high production, I would be right there with you. So it would be nice to see Jeff. I agree with you. I think that's great. And we always encourage you all to support your local magic shops. We got amazing Jeff Pinsky over here at Browser's Den. So, and there's also magic updates I got to share with everybody too, Cam and FISM wise, because we got lots of magic is on the horizon, right? Like the fall is going to open up, and who knows what event wise is going to be, but FISM is taking place. This is the North American Qualifying Championships is taking place from September 30th to October 3rd. And that's a really big deal for North American magicians. Is for one of the first conventions that's sort of opening up again, but also for competitors. This is the gateway to qualifying to become a world championship. So a champion. And this is, of course, for the North American qualifying. So really big event that is available. For more information, you go to FISMNA2021.com.
And Joyce, are you going to be there?
I will be there, and I'm so thrilled. I get to meet other podcast listeners. A good friend, of course, Kid Oldman from our listeners here is going to be there as well. So it'll be nice to see so many. I'm not sure how many are going to be there because who knows the state of things, but it'll be nice to see magicians again in person. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's also a joint event with Camaraderie. It's their convention as well. So it's a sort of a purpose event, and so that is exciting. And Cam's got some events coming up, of course. He's got his finger out as if he's got an idea.
Question for you about these events, because you have the inside scoop on all these things. You've got so much inside information. Are they going to do any hybrid situations for these events for people that maybe can't attend or don't want to attend? Because I know this came up in our virtual panel discussion about film festivals and how it allowed a certain group of people to be able to attend something that they couldn't before.
That's a great question that I don't have any kind of authority to speak on. I'm
Okay.
just a purveyor of information, and I'm not sure what I'm. Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that information might be revealed in the future, and I think it also might be specific to what sort of unfolds. I'm not sure on that. So,
Like, to be honest, that would be so cool if that was a possibility, to be honest. I mean, especially for
there,
someone like, because if you could go and I could be here and still go at the same time, we could talk about a unique, anyhow,
agreed. And
dreams.
I'll just say that information to come. So Cam is got some events coming up in September. I'll just be real brief as well because I can't talk about too much information, but we're gonna have some special guests, and this is not the week school opens, but one of those Wednesdays. Keep your eyes open, and we'll share some more information and have some interviews and things. Special guests that are all corresponding with the qualifying championship. So that should be something to keep your eyes open for, and other events we'll announce in the future. Anyways, that's magic news that I've got. How are things looking over there on your end?
For me, so I mentioned it a couple episodes ago. I was going to take a performing hiatus as I kind of work on practicing, take time to relax and things like this after a really busy season of virtual magic shows, which is weird because it feels like virtual magic shows might come back in full effect again. However, I did get my first inquiries about magic shows coming up at the end of August, which I'm really excited. I get to perform again with Smooth Comedy at the Staircase in Hamilton. So if you're in the Southern Ontario region, you can come check out the show, but I'll get to do my first ever set. I don't know what to plan yet. I don't know what the regulations and rules will be just yet. So I have two sets in mind. There's like a no touching set, which I'm thinking about having almost like a bar stool or a stool that would probably be at the venue with just a couple playing cards on there and kind of do some virtual based magic in a platform setting almost. But I would stand on one side, spectator, maybe a no touching thing. And the other one would be like minor touching. So I'm not sure what I can do yet. And the other one, I've been booked for walk around magic at a brewery, which I know, fascinating, right? I went and talked to the owners, like, how do you think we can pull this one off? Um,
Oh, interesting. And I imagine are you fully masked in that situation? Is
I
that
was so I just mentioned I was like, so the rules of the situation is when you are walking around a place, you have to have your mask on. However, you sit down, you can then demask. So I was like,
gotcha?
if these are picnic tables outside in the backyard in this patio, because that's what it's like a farm brewery, it's a farming brewery. Um, can I sit down, demask, and then we just do like a magic presentation, no touching? You know what I mean? So like that's another one that I'm gonna do, and we'll play it by ear and see what everyone's comfort level is and everything like that. And again, Dice will keep close attention to the news because everything's really changing fast. But I'm excited to be booking gigs again. I hope the
Well,
trend
here's hoping
continues.
that it's a good trend. Yeah, I was going to say a trend to the future. The next 4 months are typically the busiest season for us Magi and or level 7 wizards.
Ooh, if
So
Yeah, if you're a member of the Discord and you follow along with our book clubs, we are recording finally the book club that we've been talking about for maybe the past couple months now. Brent Braun's Plots, Ploys, and Other Cons. We will be covering this late this week, probably Friday or Thursday. Right now we're looking at Friday the 13th. Spooky.
woo!
But if you're
I'm
up for
sorry I won't be able to make it on that one. I am slammed for this record, but I'll be looking forward to listening to that whole
right,
recap.
and then we're also going to talk about a future book club. And you know what? We haven't really planned this out. The Discorders, we were kicking around what the next one could be. And I'll share this too on for the YouTubers if you're watching. But I picked up this book, Approaching Magic by David Regal, as a birthday present to myself. Like, look at
That is a monster of a book.
this is a textbook of treasure. That's what this is. And I have he has two of these. There's two of these. I have them both. Textbooks of treasure. We talked about doing this in the next book club. This is a heavy dose. I don't think we should dive right into this just yet. I think this is a long-term goal. What I'm thinking, here's what I'm going to show you what I'm thinking for the next one. I have so many of these guys. Look at these. These are the Carl Fulves books,
That is fun.
right? I think what we should do is maybe put a poll up in the Discord and see which Carl Fulves books we wanted to cover because these are super
Pretty
affordable, very
portable.
cheap.
Yep.
Most of us already have them. And they're like, you can read it in an afternoon. But there's also treasure in all of these books because they're kind of really like short written tricks, right? There's not presentation to it. They're really minimal in idea and everything. So there's a lot of creativity that can come from the Carl Falls books.
I think there might be some hidden ideas inside that idea as well. There's more to talk about. And I'm going to speak in code here. That other idea that we've chatted about, for which we will in the future dive into as well.
That one is also a very good idea too. So if you're part of the Discord, you'll hear about all these secret ideas. By the way, if you enjoy listening to our podcast, Magicians Talking Magic, the best way you can support the podcast is by purchasing Ryan Joyce's Airlock or Graemazing's Beer Bag, which are both available through, I think Beer Bag's only on Penguin Magic and on our website too. And then Airlock you can get through pretty much anywhere because it's a Murphy's release. Both tricks are perfect for in-person and virtual shows. So you have to check them out. Highly visual. And actually, Ryan's Airlock, if you're into the whole download, that's an incredible keepsake thing that you can give someone too.
I can't wait to start thinking about magic again. It's been so busy with other work, but I am really thrilled to think about new magic ideas and stuff because Halloween is around the corner as well. Speaking of this Friday the 13th for the book club. And I think we should come up with we should set some challenges in our Discord for some magic concepts and ideas because there's a lot of fun ahead that we should be having, and we will magically. So join us in Discord and follow us there. Also, I can't help but point out that you and I are both wearing our lavish MTM swag.
Our MTM merch. If you want to support us, you can do so through our Redbubble store. We have various t-shirts, buttons, pins, and all the designs. You can like change the colors and sizes and all that stuff too. And if you want them on different pieces of apparel that's shown, you can make all those selections too. All those links are in some description somewhere.
So let's talk about practicing. And this is something we all do. So we want to break down some ideas, some suggestions, and some, well, best practices for practicing. How's that sound?
Yeah, I figured, like, we thought this would be the best time to talk about practicing magic because I'm in that phase of practicing magic. I noticed a lot of us in Discord are on vacation, and usually vacation means a magic book and a pack of cards, which is kind of, leading into practice. And there's also questions that I've had from members of the Discord, too, younger members. How do you get better? How do you practice? What's your methods of practicing and everything like that? And, when I was redesigning my website just recently, I didn't realize, and also because my birthday's coming up too, holy crap, I've been doing magic for over 20 years now.
Whoosh. That needs like a badge.
Yeah. Apparently you have to join the IBM to get one of those badges or something.
You need like a sash like Scouts.
Yeah.
And there's like my restaurant badge.
Right. Well, these are the level set. This is the whole level 7 wizard thing.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So let's start out with the best time to practice magic. And I know this answer is different for everybody because there's people that have children and things that occupy a lot of their free time. So I mean, it's common that it always happens during free time. I practice during part of my morning ritual. I get up early before like I start working and everything because I wake up pretty like nasty sometimes. So I got to have a coffee, feed the pets, most often walk the dog. And then I'm going to sit down with a deck of cards and a book, or even just a book and read for a quick 10, 20 minutes, read a trick or two. But it's fun to kind of read, one or two magic principles at the start of the day too. So that's kind of when I kind of do my practice and research. Or if I'm working on some moves, I'll be working on those sleights and movements and things, that morning kind of thing. But that's my main time for practice.
I'll just add that when you're getting to refinement stage and you really want to test yourself, practice at odd times and off times and times you don't want to, and early times and late times. And because when it comes to like performance mode, you don't know what that environment is going to be. You definitely know it's not going to be relaxed on the couch holding a deck of cards watching TV. So it's really important when you get to refinement to try to match the mood that you're going to be in when you're in performance mode.
That's a really good tip because actually, when you practice card moves specifically, you most often perform them standing, right, at a table for people, but you most often practice them sitting. So your whole body posture changes when you're presenting these. Everything changes. That's a that's a golden tip right there. Absolutely.
Any way you can match as close to what your anxiety level will be when you're in front of it, the better, truthfully. So, and that's what time does. That's a great observation right there. Because the truth is, you just got to practice it. And so, actually getting better at it, how do you go around practicing this stuff? Well, here's a few tips and ideas. I'll just add before we dive into it. There's on the science and like research side, the neuroplasticity side, it takes a while for this stuff to become established in your brain, right? So you have to understand that the month concept is based in some research. Like it is going to take you essentially a month of doing at high repetition to a level where you don't have to really think about it at all. And so the basis of all practice is you're just going to have to do it and do it and do it and do it 1,000 times. And it's really essential. Sorry, I know you've got a list here of things. It's really essential that you get the, if, whether you might have to do it slower at first, but do it right from the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to create bad habits and then have to redo it, which is not as easy as learning it once the right way.
Man, those are so many good tips. That's so true, though, too. That I've always described it to lay people as learning magic is like learning to tie your shoes while talking to someone. Like you're so used to how to tie your shoes, it just you do it. Or the same thing as like your pin code, and that's what you have to get programmed into your brain for the magic trick. And that's another tip that you threw out there too. Practice the move slow, so you can get your fingertip. Like if we're talking specifically sleight of hand right now, you get your fingertips and the muscles. It's almost like very yoga-esque, and you can feel what's supposed to happen. Do it fast, and then do the move without like doing the sleight of hand part, but do what your hands are supposed to, how they're supposed to look. Right? We always learn that with like maybe the French drop the most, but I think apply that concept to all sleight of hand too. What's this supposed to just look like regular if I wasn't actually, ditching a card under the deck and doing something else at the same time, picking up two cards? What does it look like when I pick up one card? All these sorts of things. All those are so many
So
golden
much
tips.
thought and prep go into something that looks like nothing happened.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
we love about it.
But also, like, part of all this practice too is because, and I think, yeah, new magicians, young magicians, there's the guilt. You know, that guilt that you live with when you're doing a magic trick and when the magic moment happens.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Holy shit, can I get through this? Can I get over this?" And then you like make it through and you're like, "Okay, it worked." But sometimes you telegraph that a lot. So that takes a ton of practice too. That's more in-person practice. But when it comes to
Great
specifically
point.
sleight of hand getting better, you're right that it takes the time like a month. But the idea is like if you're watching a Netflix show, you probably grab a deck, grab the coins, practice that move you're working on. I always try to have more than one move at a time that I'm working on too, so that your hands aren't getting like carpal tunneled into that one specific move. Because also while you're working on that one move, you're strengthening the muscles in your hands. So maybe the other move that you're working on too, it's gotten a little better. You never know, right? You're kind of
Yeah, and
really
it's also
stretching.
helps to step away from one move completely for a minute as
Yes.
well. And that's sort of, I use the sponge reference. Like once the sponge is full, you gotta wring it out in order to put some new in there. So, and that's the same with practice. Like when you've hit that level, you've got to step away.
The last tip I have for practicing sleight of hand is if you're struggling on a specific technique that you really, really want to master, really research it. Like everyone's piece of material on it. It doesn't matter who, because someone eventually will tip you off to something that connects with you and your relationship with your hands and whatever you're using, because everyone's different. My specific thing, I remember I was trying to work on palming cards, and I had it in my head that my hand is too small to palm a card. And then Jay Sankey always talked about this, and I was like, I still can't do it. I still can't do it. And I was working on the one hand top palm, I could not master this. But I forget even the downloader where I saw Jay Sankey talk about one hand top palm. He just mentioned this one idea of you just had a little jiggle into the deck. I don't even know how much that means to anybody else, but the jiggle, shoof, it went right in my hand perfectly. It was just that little jiggle thing.
Yeah, one little tip from that really made it happen, and that, yeah, you're right. So it's absorb as much as you can.
I've also abandoned moves because I've just learned from decades of practice my hands can't do they don't like it. My hands don't like a pass. There's just a relationship with my fingertips that always like to sprinkle cards everywhere. And there's no I can't get the deepness and I can't they don't want to do it. And that's fine too. There's advantage to learning what moves don't fit with you because then you can focus on other things, like you focus on your strengths, right? That whole thing.
Yeah, and at the beginning, it's hard too because you just arbitrarily learn moves, like, and you're not really sure which purpose or why. And
hmm
then later, as you refine, it's like, if only I had this knowledge before, I would have only worked on this.
Yeah, sure.
this. Well, so the actual act of practicing, like, there's a ways we can do that. A lot of us initially start with the mirror, which is exactly where we should start. And there's also recording as an option. So which of the two is best? I'll just I'll reflect. Oh, see what I did there, right off the bat, and just say that mirrors are obviously the starting point, and they're the best place and easiest, but they can be really conducive for training bad habits. And one of those is, you had touched on it earlier, is that, like, we have those moments of guilt, and so for some magicians they cover that with a blink, and the mirror does not help remove that. So the only thing that can help cure that is recording yourself and watching and seeing and reviewing and studying. So each have their benefits. Of course, mirrors, depending on the move, of course, is the easiest and best way to go. I would always just recommend record yourself in the process and review.
Recording yourself has so many wins to it no matter what you're doing. Even when we're recording these episodes right now, like, oh my gosh, I'll review and be like, "Yeah, that's fine." Actually, talking about recording yourself too, because when you do mirror practice, you're right, you do the blinks, or magicians, and I'm guilty of this. When you're doing the magic moment, if you're flowing and vibing with your patter, then magic's about to happen. So you speed up and kind of say weird things, and then you slow down again and go back to your majestic
Oh,
pattern.
right,
And everyone's
right.
kind of like, what just happened now? Or I've actually shared this with one of the Discorders too. They were sharing one of the routines with me, and they were delivering patter very calm and nice. But then in a moment, their hands went all like, a little too fast for the sleight of hand, right? To make it like maybe I'll motion blur at the sleight of hand kind of. I don't think that's the intent, but that I remember I used to do this 100%. Maybe I can motion blur the sleight of hand if I do it fast
R-
enough,
Right, right.
but it doesn't match with my presentation. So it all disconnects. So it's almost also keeping in mind when you record yourself, you can see like, ooh, there's something weird there that doesn't fit. You can find the weird things that don't fit and maybe artistically analyze them and think about, well, is it the pacing? What is going on there? Kind of thing. Another interesting thing too about recording, Carissa Hendricks has talked about this, is if you're doing a live show, listening to the audience or seeing the waveform and actually critiquing the reaction time to everything, right?
Yeah, that's a great segue for our next round, and that's like, what are some tips for practicing, like, the stage aspect of this? And that is a really valuable point. I've always, like, said to myself, it takes 3 shows to make that routine good, and then, like, an infinite number of shows to polish it off. But really, like, until that idea has seen an audience, it eh, you're never going to walk out and do a routine the first time and be like, "That's it. I'm done. That was wonderful. I don't have to change a thing."
New show. New
Yeah,
show.
next. So just to understand, like, and it's those first 3 shows, that if you can do 3 shows back to back to back to back, that's the best case scenario. Like, slam those puppies out in a couple of days if you can. But truthfully, until your anxiety level matches what it is in reality, on stage, and all of the tension around that, you're just and the two-way communication with the audience, because their energy is in that room some way, shape, or form. You describe that some way. I don't know how to explain that, but it's there and it exists, and it will impact your routine, because one day when you're doing it and you've done it 700 times, somebody does something that happens and you say something that you keep for the rest of your life. And so that's the gold that really is comes with perfecting a stage routine, which is just, again, time and repetition, doing it over and over and over again. And then the big point, of course, is to get feedback.
Getting feedback is so key. Actually, when talking about feedback and what you're talking about too, about it takes like 3 shows. I get scared now if I do a new trick and it hasn't failed yet. Like the thing, something hasn't gone wrong yet. It's almost like you need the thing to go wrong or a couple things to go wrong to be like, oh, this is how we maximize the magic for this.
Yeah, it's true, and it's also I have from experience. I remember walking on stage doing a routine the first time and then ending and saying, "I'll never do that again," and it's a staple in my show to this day. But if I had dumped it immediately or within the second show, it would never be where it is. So you've got to have like a buffer of time to work out, you know, and that is to be said. You're improving each repetition. Of course, you're not just doing the same one. You're applying your learning. But anyways, give it time. It really, that's the hardest part about becoming new into the business, is like you're not really often given that many opportunities to go on stage. So it's a little bit harder at the early onset.
Question for you specifically, because we talk, I mean, when it comes to card magic, sleight of hand illusion, or magic tricks and things like that, a lot of us are like, yeah, I know how to practice this. I have my own methods and things like that. But do way more advanced magic than a lot of us, doing full stage productions with choreography,
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, it's just
choreography. Oh my
staged.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, choreography, more theatrical, I guess. Definitely not difficult magic by any means, but more like integrated with video and the spotlights here and that. Yeah, for sure. And that takes a establishing a base of people around you that are good at lighting and good at, direction and movement and dance. And I'm not saying like go get a dance teacher. I'm just saying if you're going into the theater world, you've got to open up your network to people that are specialized in areas of stage that you don't excel in. And we all are ignorant to that. I was ignorant to that at the beginning for sure. But um, it's just like anything else. If you go to someone who knows more than you, you're going to accelerate your learning faster. And that's what the whole purpose of finding a network of people that know what they're talking about.
When you first started doing, because you've talked about it on the podcast, so you kind of have like computer science background almost, and then whereas like, nope, magic, I'm going to do it full force right now. Did you reach out to basically your friend circle, people that were nearby that you knew were
Dancers and
dancers and theater people?
yeah, like 'cause at that point, it's like you're learning everything, that you're learning stage makeup, all the stuff that who would have thought about, and even lighting, like everything. It's so important. Like if you walked out into a show and you're lit with green lights, like you've got to know like that's not a good idea. Like you've got this like accumulative knowledge of fails behind you.
Yes.
And that can be accelerated by hearing the fails of others. And so that's why it's just so important to reach out. It's got to be people you trust their opinion on. That's something we just should qualify here as well. It's not like reach out to you've got to really respect that person's qualities. Like getting advice for the sake of getting advice isn't really helpful.
Yeah, I think there's more to just reaching out to a magician for like a consultation or something. It's about respect, like being a friend with them, and maybe it's not even a magician, whoever is a mentor in whatever you want to learn about. Get
That's a
to know
great
that
point.
person on a deeper level than just, hey person, can you critique this for me? It's more than that, it is much more like, because there's also learning that goes back and forth too. I have some great book recommendations that I'll share at the end of the episode too. One
Yeah,
more
and
thing.
there
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and there are people in this industry, like we've sort of in this whole category been chatting about things you can do for stage and competition and such. So there are people out there that if that's what you're looking to do, professional stage or competition level magic, there are people out there that like kind of specialize in this. So definitely do some research, because there's some really brilliant minds out there that can really accelerate you faster.
That's true. I feel like even those mentors though too, they almost put the candidates on through challenges or quests to see if they're worthy to take on their skill set as well, right? Like I remember Luis talked about Romaine, and Romaine said, "Well, if you find these few books," and he went and did the extra mile and did that, and then Romaine was like, "Well, I'll teach you these things. I'll teach you these things."
Yeah, you brought up a good point that I remember Joan told me early on as well, and that was to get a non-magician viewpoint, because we definitely have our own uh, cliches and our own, like, we dive deep into things and we forget reality, and it's good to have someone that's not in the magic industry to sort of ask questions that make you ask that question internally, and that's the value of really having someone with an outside perspective, because they're going to ask why a lot. I figure is really what it boils down to, why
The
something.
why is almost, I think, the biggest thing that magicians forget in whatever we're doing. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing the trick? Actually, I remember David Johnson. We were doing a magic jam, and I was sharing. He's like, "I like this trick. I just learned it recently," and I was showing, and he's like, "But why? Why do you like it? Why do you want to do it?" It's like, "Oh, David Johnson with the grill question." But that is just, it was such a meaningful question too, and I was like, you know what? I don't know, and I've been still exploring for weeks since he talked to me about that. Because I still
It's
love the
tough questions for everything.
Yeah, because you actually do literally stumble upon a trick that you love to do. You love the process of how it flows and works for some reason. Even if it's not the best of tricks in the world or something like this too, right? It's just you're like, I really like this. And I think I was talking to another Discorder about this in material selection. We're kind of, in a sense, there's always the relationship to DJs or music artists and things like this in the magic world. We're researching books and manuscripts and downloads and videos of all kinds of material, and we choose a piece from here and we choose a piece from there, and over time, if we perform these pieces enough, they become more us than the original piece without us realizing it, hopefully. Hopefully. But we're selecting those magic things because it fits for with us and like our artistic abilities and all sorts of these variables that make us unique, and that also having outside opinion is key, because if you just stay engulfed in the magic world, we're all performing the same tricks then too.
Yeah, it's true. That's the hardest part is, like, after you've perfected all these moves, is really defining who you are as the performer. And those, like you just said, is those choices that make everything you and unique. And it all takes practice.
I think, and the biggest thing too about finding mentorship or even other outside opinion, collaboration really helps the growth of any idea. If you just have one idea and you kind of hold tight on it, you can't see all the errors or the problems to it. You have to share it with other people to get the actual feedback from it, or what are we doing here? So collaboration's great. If you can find a mentor, if you can't, a great place is our Discord server. It's filled with incredible friendly magicians who are like, I mean, people like Chris Shepard, the Magic Whisperer, who are always willing to share magical knowledge. And I think that's kind of the vibe we like to have in our Discord, is shared knowledge of magic, because we recognize that all of us have different skills and assets that we can share with the group, which is so cool.
Wow, this has been jam-packed. Before we end this episode, do you have any recommendations for further education?
Further education, because I know our listeners love books, because we have the whole book club going on. I brought this book up a whole bunch, but it came to mind because of the situation you referred to as the blinks. That is verbatim out of this book, The Show Doctor. There's a whole chapter on the blinks and doing, blinking when the magic moment happens. And then Jeff has, for each kind of situation that he addresses like that, tricks how you can overcome those problems. Show Doctor by Jeff McBride. This is a very affordable book too. Dynamite book. It's Jeff McBride. Also Maximum Entertainment. If you're getting into the realm of the theater magic and you want to be better, you know what I did not? I'm the worst. Can you do me a favor? That line. I do that all the time. I gotta cut that out.
We definitely all have our lines that are, what is the word? They subconscious. That's the word. They just sort of come out.
Especially during Close to Magic. Can you do me a favor, Anne? Can you do me a favor? And that phrase is meaningless. And then the last one, which is kind of a great representation of this whole episode, Practicing Magic, is Teaching Magic by the late Eugene Berger. Can you believe it was 4 years ago that he passed?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Legend.
The legend. Teaching magic, though, is all about the idea of even as a teacher of the art of magic, you're still a student of the art of magic, too. And there's also like hidden gem tricks in this thing, too. If you've never picked up Teaching Magic, highly recommend it. But Joyce, this has been a fantastic episode.
Solid. You can continue your education further by joining us in Discord. This has been a great conversation. Don't forget you can watch us on the YouTubes. We don't have a / Magicians Talking Magic yet, but you can just type in Magicians Talking Magic and find us, or check your link in the description of this
But
episode.
all of you listeners can help us out, get to that / by going to our YouTube and hitting subscribe, because as that builds, we get that opportunity to do that. And make sure you pick up Airlock by Ryan Joyce, Beer Bag by Graemazing. Check out our Redbubble for t-shirts and merch.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. This has been a great episode. My name is Ryan Joyce.
My name is Graemazing.
Shablasm.
To Doozle. Meow. Awesome. We did it.
That's great.